So one thing you might hear a lot about in coffee is how important water is to the quality of your coffee. And some people say, if you start with bad tasting water, you're gonna have bad tasting coffee. And that's true. If your water tastes gross, then your coffee is gonna taste gross. But what people don't really understand is that the actual chemical composition, the compounds that are in solution of your water, are actually dramatically changing the taste of the coffee that you extract. Water has a big effect. Not only the water itself, but what's in the water. So just an example, this morning I was trying to dial in this coffee from one of my favorite roasters from Singapore. This is Mood Trap. And this is an interesting coffee because it's got a honey lactic process, which, in certain occasions, it can taste fermented. So I was getting a lot of fermented notes from this particular coffee. I tried a lot of different things. I tried changing the temperature, the grind size, the yield, right, the ratio, a lot of different things, but I couldn't quite get rid of this fermented note. That was like really detracting from the rest of the coffee, from the actual taste of the coffee. So what I ended up doing is finally changing the concentrations of ions I had in my brew water. And it went from tasting like a ferment forward to finally be able to taste these notes on the bag: mango, orange, and vanilla. So that's just one example of how changing the composition of your water really can affect the taste of your coffee. Right, so let's talk about water. What do you want to start with? You want to start with pure water. And so you can go to the store and buy something like this. This is distilled water from Arrowhead. I think this cost me $1.50, which is honestly not expensive, but also not cheap if you're making a lot of coffee. So the other thing you can do is buy something like this. This is a 4-stage water filtration system. It has a carbon filter, some other filter. It's got an RO, reverse osmosis filter, and the last stage is a deionizing filter. And what this can do is take all of the ions out of your coffee. The ions are what are hypothetically, changing the compounds extracted from your coffee. And this strips all of them and gives you a baseline of 0 so that you can start with a fresh slate and make your own water do exactly what it is you're expecting it to do. So this RO Buddy from Aquatic Life I got on Amazon. It was $60 when I bought it. I think now it's $70. All the things I talk about coming from Amazon, I'll add links to in the description so you can find them and buy them if you like. Okay, so another thing that you'll see a lot of people do is use something like this. Let me get rid of this. Distilled water. So you'll see people using this. This is a Brita filter. Almost everyone has one in their house, right? This is just RO water that same tap I ran through the RO filter, RO DI filter, to get reverse osmosis water. And these things are really different, right? This is just a standard carbon filter. And you can't say that a Brita doesn't do anything to your water, right? It obviously changes the taste of your water. If you've ever put water through a Brita filter and tasted it before and after, it tastes different. If you're paying attention, or if your water is really strange, you'll really taste the difference with this. But what this filter is not doing is removing ions from your water, right? A lot of ions are not getting trapped by this carbon filter. So basically, it's not really affecting how your coffee is being extracted. So let me give you a quick example. This is water I filtered with that RO Buddy. So here, get some cups here. Here, this is a really cheap Tds meter. And what this actually does is it measures the charge of the ions in solution of your water, right? So if there are ions in your water, you'll get a positive reading, some non-zero number. So let's start with this reverse osmosis water. Pour a little bit of it here. Okay, turn this guy on. You read it. I'm gonna put it in here and push the hold button. You'll see here, it's reading 0. Okay, let's do the same thing for this Brita filtered water. Put it in here, push hold. You'll see here, it's reading 49 TDS. That's TDS. Right, so what is that 49? Is it calcium? Is it magnesium? Is it some other ion? I don't know, but I do know that it's not 0. So if you're gonna make your own water and you want it to be repeatable, you really don't wanna be starting with something unknown. Really get some RO water, get some distilled water, if you're just starting out, just buy a jug of this stuff and you'll be good to go. All right, so now the next question is like, we have very pure water. How do we make our own custom water? And that's where something like this comes into play. These are concentrates that I've made. So here, this is Epsom and this is potassium bicarbonate. So you can buy just chemicals like this from Amazon. So this is a massive bag of Epsom salt. And this is food grade potassium bicarbonate. Okay, so Epsom salt is what's a type of hardness called general hardness. This is increasing the ion content of your water, changing what compounds are extracted. I'm not a chemist, but I do know that changing the amount and concentration of Epsom salt in your water really changes the taste of your coffee. And likewise, potassium bicarbonate, this is a different chemical. This is what's called a buffering hardness. And what this does is neutralize acidity. So if your coffee is tasting overly acidic, you can increase the concentration of potassium bicarbonate and bring down some of that acidity, make it a little softer. So you don't have to use just these two compounds. Instead of Epsom salt, a lot of people use calcium sulfate. Some people use magnesium chloride or calcium chloride. The chlorides recommend you stay away from if you have an espresso machine, because the chlorides, I believe, can tend to corrode your boilers. But do your own research. I did my research. I found that Epsom salt and potassium bicarbonate were nice chemicals to use for water composition. So instead of potassium bicarbonate, you can use something else that's a lot more common, easier to find, baking soda. This is sodium bicarbonate. And the reason some people prefer potassium bicarbonate is sodium bicarbonate. It's got sodium in it. It's got salt. Table salt is sodium chloride. You're tasting the sodium. That's what salt is actually, just a sodium sensor on your tongue cells. So if you add too much baking soda, it'll taste a little salty. But honestly, at the concentrations we're going to be using to make our water, probably not going to taste it. But I use potassium bicarbonate just for that reason. So the first thing we want to do is make a concentrate. And if we formulate our concentrate well, it's going to make making our own custom water a lot easier later. So let me give you an example here. These concentrates are 10,000 parts per million by weight. We want to use, here, you can use 24.626 grams per liter of Epsom salt or 20.006 grams per liter of potassium bicarbonate to make these concentrates. So I'm going to make here about 100 grams of this 10,000x potassium bicarbonate concentration here. So I have a kind of a pre-weighed amount of potassium bicarbonate. You can see it. I want to get 2 grams. That's a little high. All right. Come on, scale. You want to be as close as you can get. Let's just pretend that's 2 grams here. I don't want to spend all day just trying to get exactly the point, 2 grams, and the scale. $10 GDO scale. I'll put this on Amazon. It's not the most precise scale, but it's probably better than a scale with lower resolution. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to tear a cup here, add our potassium bicarbonate in, and then I'm going to dilute up to 100 grams. So 100 grams, including the weight of this potassium bicarbonate. Here you see I had 20 grams per liter of water. So because I'm going to add up to 100 grams, milliliters here, or excuse me, 100 grams of water and potassium bicarbonate, I'm using 1/10 of that amount. So 2 grams instead of 20. So let's just pour in up to 100. Ooh, a little more. And what I can actually do here is this is a little squeezy bottle. It's, again, something that I bought on Amazon. I'll link it in the description. And this makes dosing really easy. So when I'm diluting, I can, drop in it a little bit at a time. Just get it up to 100. And with these, you can be very, very precise, right? So I really like these, and I like these for DI because it lets me be very precise in dosing water and making these concentrates. But I also really like them for the concentrates themselves. And you'll see later when we actually make the water with these, how easy these little squeeze bottles make it. So this is the solution, 10,000x concentrate we just made. What you want to do is mix this up until all the solids are dissolved. So I'm not gonna do this right now. You can do that on your own time. But I do have some pre-mixed potassium bicarbonate here. And so I just want to give you a little pro tip when you're filling these bottles. When you add these compounds to your water, it really actually changes the characteristic of your solution. So if you're actually filling up one of these bottles with DI water, you could just pour it in and it would flow in really easily. But because we've added all these chemicals to this water, the surface tension has changed. So when you're filling these up, really what you want to do is squeeze the bottle, fill it up a little bit, and then release the pressure so that the vacuum pulls it in. If you don't do this, you could end up with the situation where the water just kind of stays here, like in the funnel and not going through. It's going to make a mess. So really, when you're filling up the concentrate, squeeze the bottle, pour it in, a little bit of it, and then let go. As you're refilling it, and let that vacuum suck that liquid down. So, okay, we've refilled a little bottle. So the last thing we want to do is actually make some water. If you look on the internet, I'll add a link in the description to the Espresso Aficionados wiki page, where they have like a really detailed page of different water compositions, how to mix them and whatnot. What I want to do today is actually just make a really popular water. It's called Bristol Hustle number 4. And what we'll do is we'll just make a liter of that. And so what we want to do here, I have 2 scales. This scale is more precise. It goes to the 100th of a gram, but it does not go, it does not weigh anything over 500 grams. This Weightman here has a precision of 0.1 grams. Which is a little bit lower, but it will weigh up to a kilogram or maybe more. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to weigh out the concentrates here on this more precise scale, and then I'll fill the water up on using this less precise but higher weight limit scale. So I'm just going to tare the same container on both. All right, so Bristol Hustle water is 80 parts per million of general hardness and 40 parts per million of buffering hardness. So what I'm going to do, because this is a 10,000x concentration, I'm going to add 8 grams of the Epsom, 4 grams of the potassium bicarbonate, dilute up to a liter, and then I'll have Bristol Hustle water. All right, so really simply, just add 8 grams. Pretty close. And then I'll add 4 more grams, so that'll be a total of about 12 grams here. A little over, but pretty good. And then what we'll do, bring this up to 1 kg. Let's get it legible here. 1,000 grams. Oop. Oh, a little lip. Well, it's a little over. Let's just pretend, for the sake of this video, that's exactly 1,000 grams. So now what you can do is take this water, stir it up, and then pour it in your favorite kettle. And then, if you're doing a pour over, you can use this for your pour over. You can try different levels of, your Epsom salt, your potassium bicarbonate. Sorry for this fail here. This should, let's assume this got to 1,000 grams. But you can add different levels of these things and really see how it affects your coffee. If your coffee is tasting a little bit too sour, try upping your potassium bicarbonate. If it's tasting a little funky, lower your Epsom salt, or maybe, lower your buffer, right? Because all these things change the flavor compounds and the taste of your coffee. So I am using, if you're using something like this, a Flare 58, right? You're using a Flare 58. You can take the water in your Stag, right? Change it out really easily. If you're doing pour over with V60, again, it's really easy to just change your water out. If you're using something like this, a Breville dual boiler or a more conventional espresso machine, it's gonna be a little bit harder, honestly, for you to change your water composition out, dial your water into your espresso. You're gonna have to pull the tank, you're gonna have to empty it and refill it with your water. It takes just a lot more water, and then you're gonna have to like drain your your boilers and all that. So maybe water dialing for espresso, especially with a machine like this, it's not always gonna be the easiest thing to do, but I guarantee if you're just using some random water, if your water is super hard, like your municipal water is like 400 TDS, right? Buy one of these meters, right? Check your water, or just go Google your town's name and water report and just see what range of water you have. The best coffee making regions in the world just naturally have soft water, low hardness. So if you're like living, making coffee from groundwater, probably not the best thing to do. You're gonna get really muddy, kind of funky coffee. So definitely, check your water report or get one of these things. And if you're getting, really bad results, no matter what you do, you keep trying to change things, and your coffee is just not tasting like it does at your shop, definitely try to change your water composition. All right, so in future video, maybe I'll try, 4 different waters. I plan to try like a 20-20, 20-80, 80-20, 80-80. So that's like different levels of this general and buffering hardness. And, a different video will do a taste test of those things. But, until then, get some water, make your coffee better. This is a hobby, right? So you might as well just optimize, maximize everything you can. All right, till next time.